Since childhood, my friends all know that I like Shinqianqi. Wherever she goes, I go. If she wants to go abroad, I will accompany her. He is totally a bootlicker. Anyway, the Lu and Shen families had been engaged since childhood, so the relationship between the two families is inseparable, and they have joined forces to become the top wealthy families in Jiangcheng. Unexpectedly, on the wedding day, Shinqianqi ran away before the wedding procession arrived and went abroad to save her first love. What is certain is that the Shen family is strong and the Lu family is weak. Our childhood sweetheart's love eventually became a joke. With a fake smile on my face, I went through the wedding process alone. That day, I became a laughingstock in the entire Jiangcheng upper-class society, but I didn't care at all. It is really stupid to lose the initiative for the so-called first love. From now on, the business empires of the Lu and Shen families will belong to me alone. The Shen family will completely become history. 1. The plane that Shinqianqi was on took off. The atmosphere in the hotel lounge was very depressing. I smoked with an expressionless face. Perhaps only my slightly trembling hands can explain the depression I feel inside at this moment. My parents also looked at Shinqianqi's parents with gloomy faces. Uncle Shen had already broken more than a dozen cups, but the people he sent out were still a step too late and failed to bring the person back. There were 2 messages in my phone that I didn't let them know. One was sent by Shinqianqi. Abai, this is urgent. I can't go into details. I'll make it up at the wedding when I get back. The other message was a video of Shinqianqi talking on the phone with someone. She was still wearing the reception dress that she had specially customized and had started designing a year ago. The bracelet on her hand is a gift from our Lu family to our daughter-in-law, and it is also a symbol of the mistress of the Lu family. Her tone was full of tenderness and surprise, and the joy of regaining what had been lost could be felt vividly even through the screen. I watched that video at least 10 times, frame by frame. I feel a little heartbroken. After all, she is the girl I have loved since childhood. It's a pity that she had the chance to turn back, but she made the wrong choice. Now that you have made your choice, you cannot regret it. She had to eat all her own shit even if she had to pinch her nose. I smiled, put out the cigarette in my hand, and stood in front of the 2 parents. The auspicious time has come, let's continue the wedding. 2. By the time Shinqianqi reappeared, 5 days and 5 nights had passed. In the past 120 hours, the Lu and Shen families have been at the center of public opinion. No matter how hard they tried, the hot searches could not be suppressed. There were all kinds of comments. I insisted on going through the wedding process alone and was scolded badly. I have become the spokesperson for Ninja Turtles. Someone even made an emoticon package of me, a green one. The Shen family really owes me an apology for this matter. To express his apology, Uncle Shen held a special banquet to make amends. Today was also the day when Shinqianqi returned, but she was nowhere to be seen until the banquet started. Uncle Shen's face didn't look very good, but he still forced a smile and urged people to drink. Abai, I'm sorry for wronging you in this matter. Dad will give you a toast. This is all thanks to you, but it's too unfair to you. Don't worry, Dad will definitely give you a satisfactory explanation. I smiled and nodded, then drank the glass of wine. Just as he put down his wine glass, the door of the box was pushed open and Shinqianqi walked in tiredly. The sound in the box disappeared in an instant. Her parents looked at her gloomily, and my parents both started to daydream. Her father was so angry that he slapped her in the face and then pulled her to my side. You still haven't apologized? Shinqianqi smiled apologetically, but that smile looked very hypocritical. Dad, Mom, Abai, I'm sorry. I was wrong about this matter. Although it happened for a reason, it's still my fault. Shinqianqi didn't get the expected answer, but she didn't get angry. She took out a document from her bag. I know I did this impulsively, but I promise there won't be a next time. Also, I won a contract with a European supplier for the Lu Group. This is my apology gift. 3. The identity of a European supplier is an important step for the Lu Group to enter the overseas market. I tried hard for a long time but still couldn't get it. All the links are fine, but the contract cannot be signed. No matter how hard I try, I can't find where the problem lies. I have to say that Shinqianqi's judgment was very accurate. This contract will definitely win her forgiveness. Looking at the contract, my parents' expressions changed again and again. The contract is important, but the Lu Group's reputation is also important. Shen Qianqi, as usual, picked up the wine glass with a smile and toasted my parents. When her father saw that my parents did not refuse, he laughed and tried to smooth over the matter. Brother Lu, don't be angry. My daughter still cares about Abai. This contract is also for the consideration of Lu's company. Don't hit a smiling person. Everyone took this opportunity to save face and picked up their glasses to celebrate the contract. No one mentioned the awkwardness of the wedding tacitly. But, Shen Qianqi, you gave me such a big gift, do you think you can get away with it so easily? I chuckled, invited her to sit next to me, and considerately tidied her clothes. Qianqi, are you tired these days? Is Xiaoye feeling better? Are you doing well after all these years abroad? You too, in just a few days, you have to sign the contract and take care of Ono at the same time. It's hard for you. Don't worry, I'll send someone abroad right now and will take good care of Guyi. As soon as I finished expressing my concern, Shen Qianqi's smile froze on her face. The atmosphere, which had just improved, returned to its previous state. Don't care, just pretend you didn't see it. Well, Abai, that's not necessary. Guye's health has fully recovered and he has been living well these years. You don't need to worry about him. I'm a little tired. I'm going to go back and rest first. Can we make up for the wedding later? I know I've put you in a difficult position these days. After he finished speaking, he was about to get up and leave. Before he reached the door, he heard the sound of a wine glass hitting the ground. It was her father, and he was so angry that his hands were shaking. Stop. If you dare to take another step, I will break your legs today. Now, Shen Qianqi had no choice but to sit back at the table. During the meal, the atmosphere was indescribably weird. Shen Qianqi felt very uncomfortable and wanted to take out her cell phone several times, but I stopped her every time. 4. After finishing this tasteless meal, the two families walked out of the hotel together. After lunch, we acted as if nothing had happened. Of course, it was just on the surface. But this superficial peace was completely disrupted by the figure in front of the car door. Guyi was standing in front of the car door smoking a cigarette, apparently waiting for Shen Qianqi. The moment she saw the person, Shen Qianqi was panicked, but she quickly calmed down. Why did you come down? Didn't I tell you to wait in the car? It must be said that Guyi looked very handsome in a white suit, worthy of Shen Qianqi's attention. Everyone was watching this farce and no one said anything. In full view of everyone, Shen Qianqi gently took Guye's hand, not caring about the face of the two elderly people at all. As a newlywed husband, I lost even less face. I put my hands in my pockets, not showing any intention of stopping. For someone who doesn't love you, everything you do is unnecessary, so save your energy and saliva. Uncle, Aunt, I'm back from abroad. I haven't seen you for many years. I wonder how you are doing. Don't blame Qianqi for this. It was my own choice. If you two don't want to see me, I can leave again. As soon as she finished saying this, Shen Qianqi refused to stand it anymore. She frowned and protected Guyi behind her. Shen Qianqi's father was so angry that he was shaking all over. He was about to hit him, but was stopped by her mother. Qianqi, what do you mean by bringing him back? I'll give you a chance. Send him away today and never allow him to return to the country again. Shen Qianqi changed her attitude from just now and became someone we all felt was very unfamiliar. She just looked at everyone indifferently, and the words she said overturned the cognition of everyone present. Dad, Mom, the thing I regret most before was letting you send Ai abroad, which separated us for 5 whole years. But now I am the one in charge of Shen Group, and only I can decide whether to send him abroad or not. Now I have married Lu Bai as you wished. I will walk the rest of the way by myself. It is better for you two to enjoy your retirement in peace. Her father's face turned pale, but there was nothing he could do. Shen Qianqi looked at our family again. Dad, I got the contract for the Lu Group's European supplier for you, and I sent it to you as soon as possible. This is my sincerity and apology. You should know how to deal with some things. Finally, he looked at me with disdain, his eyes full of mockery. Abai, I'm marrying you, but I will be my assistant. We won't get divorced. I will do my best to be Mrs. Liu. You should know clearly that I have always loved I. In the days ahead, we will treat each other with respect. I have no objection to how you want to play, just don't go too far. As for the child, we will do a paternity test after it is born. If it is yours, it will take your surname and become the successor of Liu's. If it is not yours, it will take my surname and become the heir of my Shen's. After saying that, he pulled Guyi into the car without looking back. Before getting on the car, Guyi gave him a provocative smile, looking extremely proud. 5. Under the watchful eyes of the public, I maintained a calm expression and arranged all matters appropriately. Shen Qianqi and I are childhood sweethearts. When she was little, she was always my follower, always crying and sticking to me. But I never find her annoying. The two families had been joking since childhood about becoming in-laws. Therefore, the cooperation between the two companies began to become increasingly close. It can be said that the two companies cannot do without each other. Therefore, not only the parents of both families, but also the entire Jiangqing circle knows that I will marry Shen Qianqi. The only surprise was that when we were in college, Shen Qianqi and I were not in the same university. And Guyi was her senior at that time. Shen Qianqi is very beautiful, the kind that people can't forget once they see her. It is normal for her to be liked by others. During their sophomore year, the two got together. The specific details of what happened are unclear, and the Shen family is very secretive about it, but Shen Qianqi's father acted quickly and directly ended the relationship. Regardless of Shen Qianqi's objection, he sent Guyi out of the country and cut off all contact between the two. From then on, Shen Qianqi became much quieter and her smile became much more fake. I know all this. We were both growing up together and soon took over our respective family businesses. When we got engaged, I had a good talk with Shen Qianqi, because Guyi was not only a thorn in her heart, but also a thorn in mine. Qianqi, if you can't let go of Guyi, I will help you. There's no need to put yourself in a difficult position. I still remember that her eyes were very determined and focused when she looked at me. Abai, Guyi and I are over. You don't need to hold a grudge against me. I was ignorant at that time and made you worry. The marriage between the Liu and Shen families was decided since childhood. Don't worry, I will be Mrs. Liu. We are inseparable. At that moment, I admit that I was a little touched, and the relationship that had gradually become distant over the years seemed to be closer. But in a flash, only shit was left. 6. I have been a taciturn person since I was a child. Even when faced with such a big thing and such insulting words, I just arranged everything indifferently. My parents looked at Shen Qianqi's parents coldly. They didn't get angry, but it was more uncomfortable than if they were angry. It was a good apology banquet, but it once again made the Liu family lose face. I guess Shen Qianqi's parents want to kill someone. I didn't see Shen Qianqi for the next few days, and she didn't return to our wedding room. It's normal. When lovers meet again, they must have been very affectionate in the past few days. Our circle is too small and news spreads quickly. I don't need to ask for information, it will naturally reach my ears. Shen Qianqi and Guyi moved into her newly purchased villa and acted in a very high-profile manner. It seemed that Shen Qianqi wanted to completely trample Liu's face on the ground. Maybe in her eyes, marriage with me is a shame. It doesn't matter. I don't want anyone anymore. As for who will have the last laugh, let us just compete. What Shen Qianqi did was too much, even my assistant couldn't stand it anymore. Mr. Liu, are you just going to let this go? You've become a joke in the circle now. Is this a joke? Of course. I closed my eyes and leaned back in my office chair. I was so tired during this period of time. Looking at the assistant's worried eyes, I smiled. You need to hurry up with the European supplier. You paid such a huge price, you can't lose it. As for Shen Qianqi, let her do whatever she wants. The assistant was full of surprise. I was just a quiet person, but I have always paid great attention to my reputation. Mr. Liu, the lady is going too far now. You can't continue like this. If this continues, the cooperation between Liu Group and Shen Group will inevitably be affected. She waved her hand gently, signaling him not to worry. Shen Qianqi's parents are not in a hurry, so why should I be in a hurry? I believe that Guyi will come to see me soon. As for the cooperation between the two families, Shen Qianqi has no say in the matter. 7. Just as I expected, Guyi was very impatient. Well, how could I give up this hard-earned opportunity to get promoted? In the coffee shop, I looked at him amusedly, without a trace of anger on his face. Guyi looked very arrogant. It seemed that he had really been spoiled by Shen Qianqi. Mr. Gu looks good. I guess he and Qianqi have been in love for the past few days. He smiled sarcastically and stretched out his wrist, revealing a watch. Mr. Liu, do you recognize this watch? Qianqi customized this watch a year ago as a gift for her lover. Do I think it's a good match for her? You are a joke. You are only stopping us from being together because you rely on the friendship you and Qianqi have for each other and the financial resources of the Liu Group. Haven't you heard that childhood sweethearts can't resist a man who comes from heaven? You're so pitiful. It's been half a month since we got married, and your wife has been in my bed all this time. Looking at that smug look, I really laughed and was amused. This man has a unique flavor when he acts like a green tea, which makes this drama worthwhile. Mr. Gu, you had a good dream. I hope you don't wake up. But don't you think this reunion is a coincidence? After saying this, his face turned pale. Now he probably remembered that over the past 5 years, the two of them had tried countless ways to contact each other, but they still could not get in touch with each other. However, just when they should not have been able to contact each other, they succeeded. He also roughly remembered why everything that happened after he returned to China was so coincidental. With the strength of the Liu and Shen families, it would not be so smooth. It was as if it was the will of heaven that arranged it that way. After a long time, Guyi looked at me with a pale face. You. Why? I know he was panicking. In front of powerful capital, he was nothing. His only support was Shen Qianqi's preference for him. I had a sip of coffee. It was not bad. My eyes were too calm, so calm that it threw him off balance. Just as he was about to leave, I spoke calmly. Mr. Gu, legally speaking, I am Shen Qianqi's husband, and you are just the third party. Shen Qianqi and I have been together for more than 20 years. How could I easily hand her over to a jerk like you? You are just a tool I use to verify certain things. Guye's self-control is really average. He got angry after just a few words. It's really boring. I handed the tablet to him and told him to read it before getting angry. Soon, his face became extremely gloomy. You're investigating me. I laughed. What a fool. Mr. Gu, Shen Qianqi's husband will only be me. 8. For the next period of time, Shen Qianqi still didn't come home, and I didn't care. The next time I met Shen Qianqi and Guyi was at Song Shiqiao's welcoming banquet. I arrived quite late, and when I entered the room, I just saw Song Shiqiao pouring a glass of wine on Guye's face. You. Guye's face was filled with anger, and his originally handsome face turned pale. He was humiliated in front of so many people. This was the first time since he returned to China. It was obvious that Song Shiqiao was very angry. After pouring the wine, he went up and slapped Guyi a few times. This kid was never someone you can easily mess with. He had a very bad temper and was a bully in the circle. After the fight, Song Shiqiao was still angry, but before he could make another move, Shen Qianqi blocked him with an angry look on her face. Song Shiqiao, that's enough. Song Shiqiao stopped, looked at Shen Qianqi with sarcasm, and spoke rudely. Shen Qianqi, you are awesome. I heard that Abai and you got married, so I rushed back to celebrate with you. Is this how you behave? You didn't see how good Bai was to you, did you? You got involved with such a shabby guy and even missed the wedding. You are such a slut. I see, this is to vent my anger. Song Shiqiao and I have always had a good relationship. We have been brothers since childhood, and I did send him an invitation when I got married. He didn't come back because he had something to do. Later, when we were talking on the phone, I didn't have the courage to tell them that Shen Qianqi was absent from the wedding. Shen Qianqi had no way to refute this matter. No matter what, it was her problem. Guyi, however, was a little ungrateful, probably because he was relying on Shen Qianqi's favoritism. Who do you think you are? It's not your turn to take care of Qianqi's affairs. Qianqi and I are in true love. If Liu Bai hadn't stopped us, we would have been married long ago. Guyi looked at Shen Qianqi with fiery love in his eyes. Except for Shen Qianqi who was in love, everyone else could see that most of his eyes were just acting. Qianqi, I'm sorry. I embarrassed you. Don't worry, I will work hard and make a career for myself, and stand by your side with dignity. Shen Qianqi was so moved by her wild man's progress that she almost cried. She ignored me who was walking towards her and threw herself into Gu Ye's arms. Oh no, don't worry. I will definitely help you. What a touching pair of wild Mandarin ducks, they don't care about their respective identities at all and just flirt with each other there. Qianqi, I will set up a company tomorrow. I have some savings over the years, and I know a lot of people. I will definitely succeed. You'll support me, won't you? A passionate French kiss answered this question. Shen Qianqi was really brainwashed. With Gu Ye's character, if he had any savings, it would be only about 18,000 yuan. He was living like a ghost when he was abroad, so how could he save money? As for connections, that's even more nonsense. It's nothing more than asking Shen Qianqi to invest in him. I laughed as I watched this farce and had no intention of stopping it. People always have to pay the price for their choices. Shen Qianqi, who was once a big shot in the business world, ultimately failed to overcome the tribulation of love and was not far from being pulled down from the altar. 9. Gradually, Shen Qianqi became a joke in the circle. Naturally, the same goes for me, her nominal husband. Ever since Gu Yi returned to China, Shen Qianqi has never returned home once, and Gu Yi is always by her side. I welcome this, after all, I don't like collecting junk. Now everyone in the circle has started betting on when we will get divorced. After all, it is very common to have a lover in this circle, but it is rare to make such an ugly scene. Shen Qianqi can be said to have set a precedent. The next time I saw Shen Qianqi was when the Lu and Shen families joined forces to win a big order from the Zhao family in the northwest. The signing ceremony was grand and I had to attend. Now the elders of both families have all retreated behind the scenes. As the actual controllers of the company, Shen Qianqi and I cannot entrust others to attend events, otherwise there will be problems in our cooperation with the Zhao family. This order is a project that the two companies have been planning for several years. When I arrived at the scene, I raised my eyebrows. It was surprising that Shen Qianqi was only accompanied by her assistant. Why didn't Mr. Gu accompany Mr. Shen today? It's really surprising. Shen Qianqi's eyes flashed with a hint of guilt at my sarcasm. After all, I have taken the initiative to bear this humiliation for such a long time, and she is very clear about it. Ice Company has just entered the fast lane, and we have business to discuss today. The woman who had brought me countless humiliations in the past, now had a flattering look on her face several months later. Today is a milestone for Lu and Shen's companies. I think my husband should be by my side. But I was so ungrateful that I dodged her extended hand, took a few steps back, and kept a distance that I thought was farther than that of friends. Mr. Shen, this is business, it would be better if you call me Mr. Lu. As for the title of husband, you don't seem to care much about it. Shen Qianqi's smile froze in embarrassment. She was a little conflicted and spoke after a while. About that matter Before he could finish his words, he was interrupted by someone from the Zhao family, and the signing was about to begin. Ignoring the emotions in Shen Qianqi's eyes, I stood up and walked into the scene. Now I don't want to hear anything she says. How? You slapped me in the face more than once, and now you think everything will be gone with just a few soft words. Who does she think she is? Who does she think I am? When the signing process started, we greeted the Zhao family's representatives with smiles on our faces. Shen Qianqi's phone vibrated. She hesitated for a moment and hung up the call. 10. The signing ceremony actually didn't last long, only half an hour. During this period, Shen Qianqi's cell phone rang 20 times. I looked at her playfully. The name that was jumping on my phone was Gu Yi. Mr. Shen and Mr. Gu are such a loving couple, they are inseparable. It's really enviable. Shen Qianqi's eyes were a little gloomy, but she didn't say anything. The contract had just been signed and someone from the Zhao family came over. As a partner, I had to show them 800% respect. I stood up, and Shen Qianqi also stood up hurriedly, trying to hold my arm, but she tripped and almost fell in her high heels. I still helped her up, after all, the ones who fell down were from both families. Thanks. She thanked me, but I just replied calmly. You're welcome, Ms. Shen. She was stunned. She didn't expect me to call her like that without giving her any face. I was having a pleasant conversation with the Zhao family and had just agreed on a celebratory banquet in the evening when a staff member walked in with a grim look on his face. Before I realized what was happening, I saw the faces of the Zhao family members becoming increasingly gloomy. The Zhao family in the Northwest has its roots in officialdom and attaches great importance to its reputation. The reason they were able to cooperate this time is also because the Liu and Shen families have always had a good reputation. Mr. Liu, Mr. Shen, there are some small matters that may require your attention, otherwise it may affect our cooperation. As he spoke, he asked someone to turn on the big screen and connect the phone. Gu Yi's figure appeared on the big screen, and there were many people around him. Qianqi, please help me, I've been framed. They took away the company's money and accused me of illegal fundraising. Now there are debt collectors everywhere. If this continues, I will have no choice but to jump off the building. Shen Qianqi frowned and looked at the camera, grabbed the microphone, and comforted gently. Don't get excited. No matter what the problem is, it will be solved. Go home first. I'll let the people from Shen Group handle it. Gu Yi didn't listen at all, and became even crazier when he saw me standing next to Shen Qianqi. His eyes were red and he stared at me. Qianqi, have you changed your mind? Why are you with Liu Bai? You clearly knew that my company had problems, but you still went to see Liu Bai under the pretext of signing a contract. What do you mean? Yes, he is your lawful husband, you are going back to him, right? Then why did you come looking for me? Can you just let me die? Shen Qianqi's face was full of fatigue, but she still forced herself to comfort him. Don't get excited. Today's contract was signed by Liu and Shen together. I will take care of your problem. You go back now and I will talk to you later, okay? Gu Yi didn't buy it and just kept shouting. I don't believe it. You divorce him and marry me, otherwise I don't believe it. Everyone at the scene had a frown on their face, whether it was the Zhao family, the Liu family, or the Shen family. In short, no one had a good look on their face. Shen Qianqi also realized what it meant to be embarrassed, so she could only give the final ultimatum with a gloomy face. Gu Yi, stop messing around. Otherwise, get out of here and go back to your country. Perhaps Shen Qianqi's appearance irritated Gu Yi's fragile nerves, and he went completely crazy. He raised the hammer in his hand and rushed madly towards those who had been cheated. 11. By the time the scene was under control by the police, we had arrived. There were people with bloody heads everywhere, and wailing sounds were heard one after another. I frowned and looked at the busy medical staff. This scenario will seriously affect the stock prices of Liu and Shen. Before I could get angry, I saw Shen Qianqi running to a corner with a nervous look on her face. That bastard Gu Yi was kneeling in a corner, pretending to be weak and crying his heart out. Qianqi, I was wrong. I really love you too much and don't want to see you being possessed by Liu Bai. You come to see me. Even if I have to die right now, I am willing to do so. You know how much I love you. Shen Qianqi's face was filled with nervousness, which left me speechless. It's true that a bitch and a dog will be together forever. At this point, there is nothing in my eyes except men and those things. Love brain is really scary. Now I am really glad that the person Shen Qianqi fell in love with was not me, otherwise, I would be in big trouble to clean up the mess. But he still sighed and called Shen Qianqi. Shen Qianqi, after such a big incident, you'd better be more rational. Gu Yi's company is considered a subsidiary of your Shen Group. If you don't deal with the situation now, it will have a huge impact on Shen's stock. I advise you to be more rational. Perhaps my action of calling Shen Qianqi stimulated Gu Yi again, and in an instant, he became desperate again. Qianqi, I have brought shame upon you. Go and do your own thing. I will die as an apology and will never bring shame to the Shen Group. After saying that, he took out a fruit knife from his pocket and stabbed himself in the heart. Shen Qianqi's eyes were filled with pain and she couldn't help but run over. My face was full of ridicule. Isn't it funny that he committed suicide with a fruit knife through such thick clothes? But Shen Qianqi didn't think so. She shouted at me while running. Abai, I'm leaving this to you. I'm sorry for this matter, and I'll pay you back later. I looked at the figure running away without saying a word. Shen Qianqi, it is you who has chosen the wrong path again and again. In the following performance, the protagonist has changed. 12. The impact of this incident was so bad that the Shen family lost face and the Lu family was also affected. In particular, Shen Qianqi's performance on the spot was really disappointing. Although Shen's company had promised to make compensation, it was still at the center of public opinion. There was no time to deal with them, so I directed people to start handling these matters. After consulting Mr. Shen, I announced my identity as the son-in-law of the Shen group in a high-profile manner and began to take charge of the overall situation. The Lu group has always had a good reputation, and this incident was handled in a timely manner, minimizing all impacts. When I finished dealing with all the matters, it was almost dawn. I dragged my tired body out of the gate of Shen Group branch and curled up alone on the sofa in the branch lobby. It's Shen Qianqi. Her cheeks were covered with tears, her clothes were wrinkled, and she looked haggard. I frowned, but walked over despite being reluctant. Bye. As soon as she opened her mouth, her voice was hoarse, which was in stark contrast to her previous ethereal voice and stunned me for a moment. Bye, I has been arrested. My dad was so angry with me that he was hospitalized. He refused to talk to me and even refused to see me. I looked at the sky and it was getting light soon. I was able to ignore Shen Qianqi's decadence and loss, and just said something meaningful. Qianqi, the darkness before dawn is always the darkest, isn't it? 13. Shen Qianqi's father called me over the next day, and I saw Shen Qianqi at the door of the ward. It's only been a month since I last saw him, and the old man has aged a lot, with all his hair turning completely white. When he saw Shen Qianqi, he looked away, and I noticed that there was disappointment in his eyes. Shen Qianqi's mother also had a gloomy look on her face. She completely ignored Shen Qianqi and instead kept holding my hand and wiping her tears. I hurried to comfort her without even giving Shen Qianqi an extra glance. You have to clean up your own mess after you have done it. Before Shen Qianqi could find a way to get her parents to forgive her, the phone rang. After hesitating for a long time, she finally picked up the phone. Even though he deliberately avoided the three of us, the ward was so small, how could he not hear it? Hello, we are from Jiangqing Detention Center. Are you Guye's family member? After Guye was arrested, he became emotionally unstable and attempted suicide 3 times in one night. Now he wants to see you. I didn't hear what the other party said next because Shen Qianqi had already walked out. None of us 3 said anything. No matter what we said now, it would be useless and she wouldn't listen. Standing aside, I just accompanied him silently. To put it bluntly, this matter is no longer just my own family affair. What is more important now is the attitude of the Shen family. They educated their daughter themselves. Seeing that I didn't say a word, my father-in-law and mother-in-law were so embarrassed that they didn't know what to say. Just when everyone didn't know how to break the awkwardness, Shen's assistant, who was also the assistant of Shen Qianqi's father, ran in with a panicked look on his face. Chairman, the Zhao family from the northwest called and questioned us. I frowned and stopped to leave. The assistant ignored me and stood next to Shen Qianqi's father with an ugly look on his face. Shen Qianqi's father seemed to have expected this and his face was very calm. Don't panic, just talk about it. The assistant was very embarrassed and spoke cautiously after a long time. The Zhao family in the northwest said that this incident had a very bad impact, especially since the cooperation this time was all government projects. They told us to immediately replace the president of Shen's company and issue a public statement to reduce the impact of the incident. Otherwise, they would ask us to withdraw from the cooperation. As soon as she finished speaking, Shen Qianqi's mother suddenly panicked. The Lu and Shen families have paid too much for this cooperation. If the Shen family withdraws now, it would be tantamount to giving a dowry to the Lu family. Although the 2 families are relatives, Shen Qianqi's willfulness has caused the rift between them to grow wider and wider, and they have long been at odds with each other. Shen Qianqi's father closed his eyes and motioned for me to go out first. 14. The nurse told me that Shen Qianqi's father vomited blood just after I left. He was already so angry that he was paralyzed in bed. According to the hospital's opinion, I'm afraid I'll have to spend the rest of my life in bed. When Shen Qianqi received the notice and rushed back from the detention center, her father had already issued his last order as the company's major shareholder, appointing me as the executive president of Shen Group. She completely lost control of the Shen Group. Shen Qianqi stood outside the ward for several days, but no matter how much she begged, her father refused to see her. A week later, I received a call from her at night. That day, I didn't go home but just stayed in the company's lounge all night. This is not the first time, it has been going on for a long time, but Shen Qianqi has never expressed any concern. No, to be precise, she never knew, her mind was completely focused on Guyi. The cell phone was buzzing and I looked at it for a long time before I picked up the phone. Shen Qianqi, what's the matter? There was no sound from the other end of the receiver, but the panting sound indicated that someone was listening. Shen Qianqi. Shen Qianqi on the other end of the phone must have drunk a lot of wine. She was crying, but there was a hint of regret in her tone. Abai, I got the watch back. Will you still accept it? I know I was wrong, will you forgive me? After thinking about it, I decided not to provoke her. After hesitating for a while, I slowly spoke. Shen Qianqi, I don't like things that have been used by others. You know it all the time. It's just a watch. I don't want it anymore. On the other end of the phone, Shen Qianqi was silent. After a while, she could hear a self-deprecating laugh. After a long while, he spoke quietly. Others have used it. Including me. There is no way to answer this question, although in my heart the answer is yes. After hesitating for a long time, he finally said, lightly. Perhaps this answer did not satisfy Shen Qianqi, or perhaps it touched the pain nerve in her heart. She cried for a long time, and then she laughed, a very miserable laugh. Abai, I was wrong. I was really wrong. Guyi is a bastard. He has been married for a long time, but he just kept it a secret from me. I asked him why he had been avoiding talking about what happened overseas. I thought that period had left a very bad impression on him, so I didn't ask him. I just found out yesterday that he was being kept by a rich woman, and he even got married to a rich woman in her 50s. At this point, Shen Qianqi cried very sadly. I was a little annoyed, but I had to listen patiently. Abai, I regret this. Because of such a scumbag, I hated my parents for 5 years and even lied to you. I hurt you on purpose, made you a laughing stock in the circle, and hurt you completely. I know you love me. You are all I have now. Please, forgive me. I really can't lose you again. I just listened and didn't say anything. The cold moonlight shone in from the window, and in a trance, I thought of that year. Guyi was sent abroad by Shen Qianqi's father. Shen Qianqi began to hate me, thinking that all this was related to me. I felt wronged, but more heartbroken. At that time, she often went out drinking and disappeared at any time. Because I was worried about her, I contacted all of her close friends, went looking for her in the middle of countless nights, and brought her home. I still remember that night, the moonlight was as cold as it is today. I stood at the door of the box and listened to her conversation with her best friend inside. Qianqi, no matter what, Lu Bai likes you. Look, he has been looking for you all over the world recently, just worried that something might happen to you. All of our families are planning marriages. Don't be so willful. If you really don't like Lu Bai, it's better to make it clear so as not to delay each other. I was helpless. It seemed that Shen Qianqi hated me. At that moment, my body was cold. Before I left, Shen Qianqi's voice rang out. If it weren't for the marriage contract between the two families, how could Guyi be sent abroad? I won't let Lu Bai have an easy time. He is the one who destroyed my love. Doesn't he want to marry me? Fine, I'll marry him. I will completely swallow up Lu's company, and then send him abroad to live alone. When I woke up from my memories, Shen Qianqi had already hung up the phone. Chuckling a few times. Shen Qianqi. When you were only one step away from happiness, your willfulness destroyed everything. Do you regret it now? Feel sorry. No one will wait for you forever, not all mistakes will be forgiven. 15. The sun is shining, perfect for doing something enjoyable. I plan to go to the detention center to see Guyi. The blows he suffered during this period made Guyi look much more haggard, with bloodshot eyes. Through the thick iron fence, Guyi's eyes were filled with hatred as he stared at me viciously. Lu Bai, you want to laugh at me, right? I laughed. How naive he was. Guyi, your joke. Do you think you deserve it? From the beginning to the end, you have been a pitiful creature. What you thought was love was just a stepping stone to something else. Seeing that he didn't believe me, I opened the video, the one that showed Shen Qianqi at the airport. You know, everyone in the airport is my men. As long as I give the order, Shen Qianqi will have no chance of getting on the plane. That day was her last chance to choose a bright future or the abyss. Guyi seemed to be hit in the heart by a heavy hammer. The color on his face suddenly faded away and he asked me tremblingly. You planned all this? Did you also let someone give me the information? You did everything you could to get Shen Qianqi to find me, just to drag the Shen family into this. He already understood, but it was too late. It was impossible for him to pass the message to Shen Qianqi. Even if he did, it was already too late. Lu Bai, you are a lunatic. Haven't you always loved Shen Qianqi? Why are you plotting against her? Then the illegal fundraising thing is also your trap, right? Otherwise, I wouldn't have been found out about what happened abroad. You just want to destroy me. Seeing his excitement, I felt very happy, which matched the weather today. She waved her hand, signaling him to be quiet. You are so stupid. Ever since Shen Qianqi abandoned the wedding banquet, I no longer love her. As for not getting a divorce, isn't Shen's group good enough? Some things just show that you are stupid. Guyi was so angry that he wanted to stand up and fight me, but he was pressed down on a chair by the police, and he could only curse. Lu Bai, you are so disgusting. You plotted against me for your own dirty little thoughts. I just like Shen Qianqi. You are all rich people, so do you have to use us poor people as a background? Why? I no longer had the idea of staying, so I stood up and looked at him seriously before leaving. When you were desperate to destroy my marriage, when you took a watch that didn't belong to you, why didn't you ask if it was yours? You knew you were going to be a background figure, but you still took the initiative to get involved. You only deserved it. After saying that, I walked out without looking back. I could still hear Guyi shouting in my ears. Lu Bai, I will tell Shen Qianqi everything. Just wait, she won't let you go. 16. On the way back, the assistant seemed to be hesitant to speak, and I knew what he wanted to ask. It's just that I set up such a big trap, why can I be sure that they will take the bait? After thinking about it, I decided to explain it to him. Everyone has desires, or rather, people live for desires. Shen Qianqi lived a carefree life for the first 10 years, but later she started to work very hard, all because of Guyi. She couldn't get the love she wanted, and that was the hurdle she couldn't get over. Now that she has the ability, she will never give up. Even if she is disappointed, she will find the answer herself before giving up. As for Guyi, he has been abroad for so many years and has suffered from cold stares and ridicule. He was finally found by Shen Qianqi. He will definitely act like he has been waiting for her. That is his only hope. It looks like a two-way redemption, but in reality, if the desires of youth are not overcome, they will both slide into the abyss. After saying that, I closed my eyes. In fact, I was the same. I just gave up the softest thing in my heart. 17. After the crisis caused by Guyi, I took over the Shen group smoothly. With the support of the Lu group, things were relatively stable. The two groups had always cooperated closely. After I gave up part of my interests and obtained the consent of the shareholders, the two groups officially merged. The two leading enterprises in Jiangqing have finally become one and cannot be shaken by others anymore. After those blows, Shen Qianqi became depressed. She returned home and wanted to save our wedding room, but to no avail. Because I will never set foot where she is. I feel dirty even if we just live under the same roof. Time always passes quickly. Half a year later, Guyi was released from prison after serving his sentence. The two met again without a doubt. The assistant couldn't stop the two of them. After all, Shen Qianqi was my wife in name only. They stood in my office. Shen Qianqi looked at me with red eyes and despair. Abai, tell me, what Guyi said is not true. Ignoring Shen Qianqi's trembling appearance and Guyi's smug look, I lightly lit a cigarette. Then he looked at her seriously. I don't know what he told you, but as long as he doesn't exaggerate, it should be true. Her face was full of disbelief. Guyi wanted to support her, but was pushed away. It seems that the two of them can't go back to the way they were before, just like us. No, Bai, you lied to me, right? We are childhood sweethearts, and we grew up together. You have always taken care of me and protected me. Even now, you have never said a harsh word to me. Is all this fake? When you proposed to me, you had eyes only for me. I thought you would be the one to accompany me for the rest of my life. Why did you treat me like this?" I didn't answer, but just looked at Shen Qianqi coldly. After a long time, I opened the drawer and took out a file bag. I have been preparing the contents for a long time. Shen Qianqi, the answer is inside. 19. Shen Qianqi opened the file bag with trembling hands, which contained several documents and investigation results. After watching it, all her strength disappeared. I asked my assistant to take Guyi out, then I made a cup of tea for Shen Qianqi and brought it to her personally. "Shen Qianqi, let's be frank. The fact that Lu's group has been unable to obtain the status of supplier to the European market is nothing but a stumbling block that you have deliberately set up. In addition to wanting me to accept Guyi, the other purpose is to get Lu's, right?" I looked at Shen Qianqi, whose face had lost all color, without any sympathy. "I know Guyi is your white moonlight. I asked you this before the engagement party. Do you remember your answer? I intend to help you two get married, because I have no interest in breaking up other people's marriages. You know all this very well. It was your father who did all this. It has nothing to do with my Lu family, and even less with me, Lu Bai. But what did you do? You took it all out on the Lu family, even slapping me in the face at the wedding, making me the laughing stock of the entire upper class. I have never hurt you. You are all in my eyes and heart. What are you doing? When I was 18, I vowed to take over the Lu group, right? I gave you a chance. If you didn't love me, why did you choose to marry me? Because your Shen family can't leave the Lu family, and you want to plot against me and pave the way for your little lover. Now our two families have become one, we are married, and you are with your lover as you wish. What else are you dissatisfied with?" Shen Qianqi was desperate. She slumped on the sofa and questioned me in a hoarse voice. "So you knew all this, then why did you agree to marry me?" I shrugged. I didn't really want to answer such a stupid question, but this conversation had gone on long enough and it was time to end it. Still told her the answer. "Shen Qianqi, you want the family business of the Lu and Shen families, and I want it too. Besides, a good hunter often appears as the prey." After saying that, I asked my assistant to ask her to leave. From now on, Lu group will not welcome her as a guest. 20. In the next few days, Shen Qianqi called me like crazy, wanting to talk to me. After thinking about it, I decided to meet her. The venue was chosen to be the villa where we got married. The layout there is still the same as before, and everything was designed by the two of us over a year. Things have changed and people have changed. When she saw me come in, Shen Qianqi fell to her knees. "Abai, I was wrong. I won't argue with you anymore, okay? I just ask you to live a good life with me in the future." I looked at the still beautiful woman, but my heart was calm. "Shen Qianqi, I have already married you. From now on, please be a good wife of Lu and don't bring shame to the Lu and Shen families. I will not lack your money, and we will treat each other with respect. If you want a child, we can do IVF. After all, it's Guyi you love, isn't it?" When I finished speaking, Shen Qianqi had already collapsed to the ground, tears all over her cheeks. During this period, Guyi had been sent abroad by Shen Qianqi. He had just landed when he met with a car accident. He might have to spend the rest of his life lying in bed. At that moment, Lu Bai, who had been standing outside the box 10 years ago, waiting to pick up Shen Qianqi, turned around and gave me a relieved smile.